Hi everyone. I'm going to walk you through Google Analytics, how to set up an account and how to attach it to your website. And the reason you want to do that is because you need to track behavior of your site to see what people are doing. Because you can assume all kinds of things about your content and your website, and the fact is what you think is popular may not be what your audience is looking for. So we have to test the idea of what is it that people really want to look at. But remember our philosophy of engagement that we've been talking about all semester. So what we have to do is get people's attention, get them to use our site by making it pretty and easy to use, make sure our content is good so that our website becomes a habit and builds a connection with our users. And then ultimately what you hope is that it becomes so much a part of their life that they are part of the community and you're creating a community on the website or through your brand, okay? And that's very difficult to do. You don't always achieve that, but that's the ideal, okay? And so we've talked a little bit about SEO this semester, which is thinking about how do we do things on our website that Google is going to pay attention to. And then we also think about how do we design our website so that it is an appealing experience and it has that it loads quickly and it's easy to navigate. And then we've talked a lot about having good content. Okay. And then we've also talked about ways to reach out to get people to our site or to push content out to our users. Okay. Right now, this is the area we are most focused on because you guys are nose to the grindstone with making your websites. But I do want you to think about Google Analytics because we have to think, is any of this content really worth it? Okay, so Google Analytics. So what I want you to do is go to analytics.google.com. And what you'll need to do is create an account, and I would connect it to your Google account. So I've set this up for one of the websites that I have. And basically, what you do is you go through the process, and when you set it up, you're going to create an account and you're going to give it a property. And the property is the website for that account. And I know that seems kind of like, why are you making us control two things? That's because maybe you have a company that has multiple websites. So that allows you to track multiple properties or apps through one account. Okay. So in this case, I want to be able to look at all the website data. When you create the account, you're going to get a universal analytics number, and that's this UA number. It's also over here. So this 122373029-1. That's really important because when you install the plugin on WordPress, that's the number you're going to need to connect it. And there's a lot of ways that you can prove to Google that you actually own the website. So one way is having a plugin and just plugging in that number. That makes it the easiest way to do it. Another way it might ask you to do it is it will give you an HTML file that you have to upload to your root directory. So that's another route to go. You may also want to sign up for Bing Analytics. Don't forget that there's a lot of search traffic that comes from Bing too. But we're just going to focus on Google Analytics right now so I don't make your brain explode. Okay, so here we go. So once you create the account and then you have that number, then you're going to create a plugin, not create a plugin, install a plugin. GA Google Analytics is a good one. What the thing is with this is there are plugins that will add a Google Analytics dashboard to your WordPress backend. I don't like those that much. I prefer to go to Google Analytics itself and look at my analytics there. But everyone has their own preference, so I'll let you know that that's a possibility. But I prefer just a simple plugin that will add the tracking code to the website. So Google Analytics does that. But since mine is a e-commerce site, I use the WooCommerce Google Analytics integration because in addition to regular WordPress pages, I also have shop pages. Okay, so that's why I've used that. So once you have that, you activate the app, you go to the app, and you add your universal analytics number, and all should be well. It usually takes a day or two for your analytics to start processing. So don't be shocked if you install it and there's nothing on your analytics page. It'll take a couple of days. So don't worry about that. Okay, so why do this at all? Okay, so think about our engagement model, right? We started with getting people's attention, and then what we do is we want to get them to the site, and then we want them to do stuff, right? So if you look at Google Analytics model, it's similar to that. So what it does is acquisition is its version of attention, which is basically looking at how did people come to your site? And remember, we've always been talking about two primary ways that we're getting people's attention and getting them to our site is through SEO, search engine optimization, and social. So acquisition allows us to track that. And we can say, where are they coming from? Then behavior is basically saying, what do they do on your site, right? So this is really that middle part of the engagement model of habit, right? Because we can look at, is there content that keeps people coming back? Do we have users who are regular users? That's what this behavior item will tell us. And the last part is conversions. Now, we won't be doing anything with this, but you can set that up in such a way to say, okay, where are the pages that people are going and they're actually doing something? So if you are a nonprofit, a conversion might be either a donation or signing up to volunteer. So what you would do is you would set up those pages to be your conversion pages. If I have a shop, what I'm going to do is I may do that on the sales page. Do people end up going through to the shopping cart and buying stuff? That means that's been a conversion. Um, Notice this is driven by a commercial view of the audience because as we've talked in class, if you're building community, you know, it doesn't end after you convert them. What you hope is that they're coming back and commenting and sharing and doing other things. And so there's actually what this doesn't track is what I would call like post conversion behavior, which is basically looking at what are people doing to be your brand advocates, um, and what are they doing in social spaces? What are they doing, word of mouth, that kind of thing. And this really doesn't track that, but this is useful nonetheless. So say we've installed Google Analytics and we're looking at the home page, right? So what does all this stuff mean? So let's look at the first one. The most important thing when you are looking at anything is to say, what time period are you looking at? So this is only 1 week's worth of data. And one of the things you want to do is whenever you're looking at data, you want to compare similar time frames. So you don't want to look at this and then look at your monthly results and say, well, gee, we had a whole bunch of users in October and we didn't have that many in November. We're only 11 days into November and comparing that's apples to oranges because it's a different number of days. So we want to make sure you're comparing like amounts of data. So this is weekly data. So what this does is this says, okay, we've got 1 week's worth of data and we're going to compare it to the last week. So all these percentages are what happened from last week. So we didn't have a great week. So we had fewer users, we had fewer sessions, and we had fewer people staying on the site for a good period of time. So we will look at these numbers. I wouldn't necessarily look at them week to week. But I find monthly data a little more informative, but it really depends on your website. We don't get a ton of traffic on this site, so monthly data makes a little more sense for us to look at it. If you want to change the time frame, you can do it down here. So I can look at the last 28 days. This gives me a little bit different. So I had 257 users over the last month. That was up from the previous month. And then I can think about, well, what did we do? Did we have an activity or promotion on this day? Did we boost a post on Facebook on this day? So this allows you to investigate your campaigns and see how well they worked. Okay. And what you want to do is set some goals too. Do you want to increase time spent on site? Do you want to reduce the bounce rate? Do you want to increase the number of users? Do you want to increase the number of repeat users, right? So this is where you start thinking through, well, what is engagement? Is engagement a lot of users? Is engagement people coming to the site and staying and using a lot of pages? Is it having users who come back 2, 3, 4 times a month? So you want to think through those things. I do want to give you a caution about session duration. I have talked to some analytics people who really hate this measure. And the reason why is if you bounce off the website, which is basically what I call one and done. Actually, I don't call it that. Everybody calls it that. It's not like I created the term. So what happens here is somebody comes to the site, maybe they searched for a page, they come to the page on your website, they love the prose that you've written, but then they're done and they go somewhere else. So they bounced off your site. And when they bounce, that counts as zero time on site because the way Google counts is it wants to see when you've moved to something else on the site. So that's why this can be a misleading metric, especially if you have a high bounce rate. And really anything over about 50% is kind of it's a fairly high bounce rate because like in this case this just means that 2/3 of our users are bouncing off the site after one page, and we want more people to stay on our site and look around for a while, so that's something to think about, and that gives you some goals of how we can fix that. So then we can say, well, where are people coming from, right? So if I look at different days of the week, so I can see we're getting a lot through search. And then I can also see social. We're getting some social each day. And we do have some people who are doing direct. Now, if we think about that, direct is probably the most ideal because that means they know the brand. And what direct means is they are actually typing in the name on the URL. So they're typing in the name of your website. That means they know your website. That's a little bit better than organic search, which is basically maybe I'm searching for something related to your website. So this is our garden's website. If I'm searching for succulents in Springfield, then maybe that's what's bringing them to the website. So it's just depending on what you're trying to accomplish with your business. So now I can look over here and I can say, what's been going on here, right? So this number, monthly users, did I have a high point on the month? So I can look through that and then I can see, oh, there was a spike here. What was going on? Why did we have this drop off? That kind of thing. You can see where they're coming from. You can see what time of day seems to be the most popular time for your website. You can see how people are coming to your website. So you can see here on this website, all over half the users are coming to us on mobile. So we need to make sure that our site is responsive and it looks good on mobile because we may be losing a lot of people on mobile. You also want to see, do we lose people on a particular kind of a device? So is the drop off on mobile much higher than it is on desktop? Then you can look at the most popular pages. And on this, that is our root directory. And then what this gives me an idea is I can see what our most popular products are or product pages. So in this case, people really like looking at the succulent arrangements and gifts page. They're looking at air plants. They're going to our shop, but what this might show is that there's a particular product category that is getting no business at all. What we also notice is that newcomers are looking at our About Us page, which means they are wanting to know who we are. So we better make sure this is a very personable page, that it tells our story well, that it engages people, and we hope they will like us, right? So this page value is not, this is related to conversion. So if you're someone interested in developing the conversion piece, you can look there. So this is an overview on the home page, but you can drill down into audience. So I can take a look more closely at what the audience is doing. And what's important to note is the way to drill down on your user data. You start off with users. These are people who came to the site at least once during the month. So So you had 191 people over the last month who came to the website. Again, you want to look at what period of time am I looking at? And notice you can export it as a spreadsheet if you want to track it that way. Then I can look at, well, 186 of those 191 were new users. So 90% of the people coming to the site were new. Now, if that was our goal, we're trying to get our name out, we're still in the attention phase, that's actually good news. That means we're expanding our user base. And depending on how we did on previous months, that may be what we're looking for. Now, users can do multiple sessions. So in here, what we can see is sometime over the course of the month, we had some users who did more than one session. Not a lot, but a few. So most users came once and they didn't come back. Then I look at page views. So this will tell you how many pages did they look at on your website during that session. So in this case, the average was about 3.5 pages per session. Cool, that's good. We want them looking at more stuff. And then we notice that they're spending about a minute and a half on the website. But keep in mind that doesn't account for the people bouncing off. And our bounce rate is about 60%. So that means we need to view this number with a little bit of caution. Now you can dig down into the kinds of browsers that are coming. So this can help with design decisions because so the bulk of our users use Chrome. So if there's something weird, if our site looks like crap in Chrome, then we need to do some fixing. Safari. So these are our two primary browsers. We need to figure out how do we clean that up and fix it. Okay. So then I can look at demographics too. This can give you an idea of, age range and details about your audience and that kind of thing. As you dig in more completely, there are things that Google will want to do to connect to your site, and it can get more complicated. Um, you can really go crazy on analytics. I try to keep it intuitive and understandable, so I go through in that way. So, okay, so I have my acquisition. I go to my behavior. So then behavior shows you what are they doing on the site. So this gives you what are the top pages that people are going to. I can look at the different things. We looked at this on the home page, so I won't drill into it. You can kind of get some idea of what search terms were bringing people to the website. Notice there's no data because more and more people are protecting their search data. So this isn't as useful as it used to be. Um, One other thing I forgot to mention about acquisition. Acquisition also shows you where is it coming from, right? So you can look at where people are coming from. So in this case, Instagram is huge, including the Instagram stories, right? So that shows us we're getting a lot of shares and value from those things. And Facebook and Twitter have been equally valuable to us. So we probably need all three of them in our social strategy. Okay. That's a quick overview of some of the things that you want to do. You want to look at what are the pages that people are coming to, how are they coming to your site, and then looking at that breakdown. Get here. Looking at that breakdown of search versus direct versus social. Okay, and this gives you that breakdown, and it also tells you the differences between those audiences, right? So this is a good sign. On our search users, which predominantly are new users, they look at the website and they don't bounce off. They stick around and look at a lot of pages. Those who are direct, they bounce a little faster, but there are a lot of people who are looking at a lot of stuff and spending a lot of time when they type that name on. Now, one of the things you want to make sure of is this you? Now, there's 59 users, so this is not all us, but we may be skewing that statistic a little bit. And then social is the last one, right? Now, our social numbers are a little low, so I'm kind of surprised that the bounce rate is so high for that social audience. That isn't always the case. Usually, the social people will stay because you have the strength of that referral, that social referral. So anyway, that gives you an overview of analytics. That gives you an overview of how to attach it to your website. And good luck installing that. So you'll want to make sure that you install that before this weekend.